Spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late. Now brave men died to keep you free. They paid the greatest price, so you could speak your mind and live a long and happy life. But I turn on the news and see us fighting with each other. These hateful attitudes are turning brother against brother. If we don't fix this soon, there's gonna be chaos in the streets. There's no more time to lose. We gotta stand and spread the peace. Spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late. Spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late.
Hi everybody, you got Rick White and Loel here from the Peace Police. I kind of played the outro video just then instead of the intro video, but that's cool. You got to see our little preamble to our Constitution there, and welcome to our weekly broadcast. How you doing, brother Loel?
I'm doing good, buddy. How you doing?
Good. So you got Loel Pass there, the founder and visionary of the Peace Police, and me, Rick White, the president. And we're happy to be here to talk about what we do. You know, peace, civility, and discourse. We're going to talk about all three of those things today. So it's a wild week, right? This is the week of the anniversary of September 11th. And you would think that that we could use the memory of the horrible attack we had against our country by people whose philosophy is like 100% different than what we do as a country, right? That's anti-America altogether. They're hyper-religious, fascist psychos that want everybody to convert to their way or be beheaded or killed, right? So it's the opposite, right, of America. And you would think that because of that attack these years, 20-some years ago, around 20 years ago, 19 years ago, that we would be more together now and united. But it's sad.
One would think.
One would think. Isn't it sad that we're not? You know, that's what we're about. Is about. Can we disagree? Can we have different philosophies? Yes, but there has to be something that overrides that, and that's our patriotism to this country, and that's been lost, hasn't it, Lowell?
It's been lost, and both sides have been what I call crystallized. You know,
Right.
by extreme people on either side that control the whole narrative,
Right.
and have even guided an entire party into an extreme form of hatred.
Exactly.
Which I'm telling you, the hatred that we see now has amplified since the 2016 election, and it's going to get worse here in the next year.
Yeah, I think
I
you're
hate
right.
to say it.
I
I don't want to be
you're right.
negative, but
It's unfortunate, yeah, and that's why we started the Peace Police, because things are seem to be getting worse, and the craziness surrounding people that are kind of anti-Trumpers, Trump haters. It's no longer I disagree with this person. It's like this person is the devil, and that's really the problem, right? The minute we tag one side or the other as the devil or the antichrist or whatever, then the only every kind of resistance is allowed, right? I mean, you can actually hate. If you paint people in those extremes, then hate becomes justified, right? Like, for example, if I was in Hitler's day, I would hate Hitler, right? But that's what they do. They compare Trump, and each side compares the other side to Nazis and Hitlers, which gives them permission then to be
and it's
to be
based on
hateful.
a faulty foundation to begin with, which is a lie.
It's absolutely true.
There's no moral equivalency of Hitler and, for instance, the president we have now. Not even close.
Not even close.
No, not even close.
And so
Historically and statistically, you look at it analytically, there's nothing close.
that's right. So the answer is that we've got to shock people back into reality. You want to just go up to people and shake them and go, listen, stop it, okay? Let's work together like we have for over 200 years, 250 years, or however long it's been.
Mm-hmm.
This is the great experiment of America. But, and at times like this, like with Pearl Harbor, I mean, 9/11 is as historic and as much of a kind of a landmark event in our country as
December 7th. Yeah.
December 7th. These are dates that will be with us forever. And it's just unfortunate that I feel like now we're less united than we were September 11th, 2001. We were shocked.
Yeah, we are.
We were shocked by what happened, and we came together as a country, and we went to Afghanistan. We did some things, but we came together to kind of fight this stuff. And we said, listen, we may have our differences. Almost like, I grew up in an Italian family, right? And inside Italian families, there's arguing and bickering and stuff. But guess what? If anyone
overriding love.
Yeah, and if anyone out from the outside comes in and tries to point out faults, that family puts a united front and says, hey, man,
that's right.
I can say something, but you better never. You know what I mean? So there's this pride of that concept, and we've lost that. It's people are, to the point where, I'm going to show a video here in a second, to the point where Nike had shoes with a flag on the back. And because Colin Kaepernick didn't like that and said it was racist to have the actual American flag is called, it wasn't even like it was just a flag, and that's called racist. So then Nike bows to that that social pressure, because again, they're only about profit, and they look at the numbers and they say, well, looks like some people are upset about this, so let's take it off.
Cost them $3.5 billion to do this.
Yeah. Here, let me see if I can play this clip real quick, because what this is, I'll set it up. It's Karl Rove and Representative Dan Crenshaw, and they're on the show with Martha McCallum on Fox. And I'm just going to play this because I think it's pretty telling. And once I play it, we can talk about it. So here we go. Let me make sure I got the volume up on it.
And said, I gave him the heat. Now that was an extraordinary moment from it, and the only way we're going to come back to it is to stop beating ourselves up as a country and find a way to reach across the partisan and regional and other dividing lines in our country, and recognize that people with whom we disagree are not our enemies but our fellow countrymen, and find a way to restore some level of civility to our political and civic discourse in this country. Social media has not helped that process. The increasing lack of trust in the media has not helped that process. But ultimately, it's going to be solved by two things: leadership that calls upon better angels of our natures, as James Madison said, and the ordinary good common sense of the American people reasserting itself.
Dan Crenshaw, your thought?
So that's great. What he said there was so important. He said the only way that we're going to get back to reality is if we appeal to the better angels of our nature, and we come back to common sense, that we were once a country that was united, and this division is getting so bad in our country that you can't legislate it away. We can't wait for politics to change. He even says in there that social media and the TV media are causing this problem.
Absolutely.
And that just makes a lot of
sense. They're
sense.
Isolating each other, even though we may live in the same house or the same neighborhood or go to the same workout club, gym, anything. They've isolated us into these dogmatic segments.
That's right. I'm part of a lot of things on social media, Loel, as I know you probably are too. Mm-hmm. And you can get in kind of an echo chamber situation there, where you're only on the pages or only involved in discussions where everyone in the discussion is going to support you. And we learned back in high school, in forensics class, and how to debate.
Healthy, right?
We learned that you've got to take your ideas into the marketplace of ideas and get them challenged. And I've experienced this.
You should want them challenged.
That's right.
Because you should be able to defend them, and if they're never challenged, you don't know what you believe or why you believe it.
That's exactly right. And but instead, that's not how we are anymore. In fact, I was even kicked off a relative's page because she said, I only want people here that agree with me. And that's what we got, right? We got both sides only listening to the people that feed them a certain narrative. And that comes from television, and it comes from social media. And if you design your social media in such a way that you're only listening to your side and you're only watching your TV channel, for example, if you're on the left, you never watch Fox News because you think Fox News is propaganda from the right. And if you're on the right, you never watch CNN because you don't trust CNN. Guess what? Watch all of them. And from all of them, maybe you'll find the truth. But here's the problem. This division is stoked in us. You know how many people believe wrong things about Donald Trump? They're just wrong.
Just
They're
unbelievably
not even
false.
they're like demonstrably provably false.
Yeah,
But-
and then they take the small thing in comparison to the mountain of results and success he's gotten. They take something small, and I don't think any offense is small, any sin is small, but I'm not saying it in that way. That something he said years ago, to a reporter gets blown up as it's equivalent to the stuff that's been going on in Congress and the White House previous. There's no comparison.
Right.
And yet they take a mountain out of a molehill, really, as the old saying goes.
Right. And so we have to realize the reason that happens is because that's what you're being fed from the media. If you watch a certain channel, you're going to be fed only the facts they want you to hear. They have an agenda. Fox has an agenda. CNN has an agenda. MSNBC has an agenda. It's no longer the days of Walter Cronkite, where you turn on the news and people deliver facts. Everything is opinion. And
one thing I will say
Yeah.
that I have to say, in not to build up Fox,
Right.
but they do have 3 or 4 on each side of that. They have the ones who really show you the other side.
Right.
You get Shepard Smith, and you get Cavuto, and you get the judge, and you Judge Napolitano, and some who are really more kind of anti-Trump.
Right.
And then you get the others. So they try to show at least a balance. There's some channels, and I experimented with what you're saying like last week and watched just that channel.
Right.
And it was a constant spewing of just hatred and distortions that were unbelievable.
Right. And I agree with you. I mean, obviously, I am, I'm conservative, and so I definitely prefer Fox, and I think they are way more balanced. But I know that me just saying that pisses off.
It's not going to convince anybody.
Well,
right?
and it pisses off a lot of people on the left because they think I'm brainwashed. And so all I can say to them is I'm watching the other channels too, and I'm trying to test everything. That's a good encouragement from the Bible, right? Test everything. That's all we're really saying. That's what we're saying. Test everything. If someone says something, and this is the problem, many in our country just surround themselves with people that they agree with, and they hear something and they don't test it. Yeah. So they'll hear hear that Trump is a racist and he hates brown people. And they say, that makes sense. I've heard it 2 or 3 times, so it must be true. The problem is the 2 or 3 times you heard it were from 2 or 3 sides of the, 2 or 3 expressions of the same side of a political argument. And too many people don't investigate that. And if you investigate it, you find out how many black and Hispanic people he's helped, and personally he's assisted them financially out of his own pocket. But then,
the previous pictures of him with all these stars who loved him prior to his announcing the presidency, they were friends of his. There were Trump Tower
exactly. All the Hollywood people thought
visitors, and it's just amazing. But people don't want to hear that balance of truth. See, when looking at the truth, you have to look at all sides, including the negative. Things that have been said by Trump and all those, but you got to put it in perspective in light of the context, and that's another thing we've lost is context.
Yeah, we have. What you said there, matters a bunch. Is we have to look at the facts, look at the positive things. If you look at the unemployment rate among minorities, it's better than it's been since they've counted these things. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like with Trump, everybody just wants to attack him on all fronts. Meanwhile, he's like, "That's great. I'm going to get some crap done." I've had people ask me, "How can you support that guy who is so immoral?" And it's funny because I understand what they're saying. Right? Trump is not polished. He doesn't use language I approve of.
Far from perfect. right.
And a lot of times he says stuff that I don't approve of. I don't like the way he says
a lot of cussing and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
He uses a lot of New York isms.
and more than just the language, it's the ad hominem attacks. Sometimes he'll make fun of somebody's weight, stuff like that. It's just not necessary. But what that is that's a guy who was born and raised in New York and clawed his way to the top, and he's just a New York street brawler. And so it's so funny. I would not be. There's things in my life that I would never be cut out to do, right? Like I would never be a good kindergarten teacher because I have no tolerance for that, right? And guess what? Donald Trump would be a horrible pastor, or counselor.
I wouldn't seek his counsel. But if I'm looking at the politics, the positions, the platform, and the results of his presidency, I've got to be an honest person as well and say, well, guess what? All the politicians have tried this for the last 50 years and haven't gotten 1/10 as much done. And by the way, his record of accomplishments is there for you to see if you want to go research it. Over 500 accomplishments already. So you have to be honest with yourself and say, I want to know what is on the other side.
Right. And I think you can apply this to every past presidency we've had. We had Obama for 8 years, and there were things I think you and I could point to that he did that we approved of, and when there were a few, and when that happens, you just say, hey, that was all right. There were some things we didn't like about him. I don't ever remember, to be honest with you, anyone I know attacking him in ways that were unfair. You know what I mean?
No, like racist.
Exactly.
You're a Nazi.
Yeah.
Or,
were there people that did that? Of course. And those people we disavow completely. But there wasn't like the mainstream right.
Or the media, or the media, or the social media. Really.
Yeah, it's like no one focused on things that were inappropriate to focus on. But with Trump, it's different. With Trump, almost everything you hear in the media, with the exception probably of Fox, but every other channel, every other social media is Trump's a racist, he's horrible, he's hateful, he's destroying the country, he's xenophobic, he's misogynistic, it's blah, 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 and he's killing the country and all this stuff. And it's like a panic.
Well, I was going to tell you, Rick, a guy challenged me on it. He says, well, when he said, it all goes back to when he started this and said, that Mexicans, he was talking about if you look at the context, Trump was talking about illegal, felonious criminals trying to come into the country. He was specifically talking about those. And his comments after that, if you just roll back and watch the video, were specifically about those people, not about an entire race.
Right.
I mean, he's got thousands of Hispanics and blacks working for him,
right,
in circles of friendship with him and everything else. So it's just an erroneous thing to go back and try to twist that,
right,
and make it when it's available for you to go see and check out yourself.
Right. And that, where that comes from, Loel, is what we're talking about, is the two sides are so far apart now, and that's probably the fault of us and the media and social media, but we're so far apart now that the left just can't accept, like they could never state, it seems, that Donald Trump did a good thing if he cured cancer,
even though there's a list of 50 things.
It doesn't matter. He's to be hated at all costs, and I hope that we're not like that. But those on the right, we could do the same thing. We could look at people and say that guy is, there's nothing redeemable about him. I don't really think I feel that way about anyone on the right. Like Bernie Sanders. Like I would disagree with, on the left, I would disagree with like every policy Bernie Sanders has ever done. Mm-hmm. Right. I think he's kind of a funny guy. I wouldn't mind having a beer with him. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit there and tear apart the morality of every decision he's ever made in his life. That's between him and his creator, and I don't know much about that. I can talk about his policies. I think they're insane.
Right, and that's what we're supposed to be talking about in the political
Yeah.
realm of politics, procedure,
Right.
your platform, your positions,
Even
and the results.
right. Even Buttigieg, right? So Pete
Hmm.
Buttigieg is openly gay, okay?
Hmm.
And I'm an evangelical Christian, right? Guess what? In my discussions or evaluations about Pete Buttigieg, the concept of his sexuality never has
Wouldn't
anything to
come up.
it has nothing to do with the discussion. Now, if Buttigieg wanted to talk to me about spiritual counseling, I might bring that topic up. But Buttigieg is running for president, so I don't really
Right,
care.
even he as president,
Right,
if he were getting policies and things done and
right.
having the results, you'd have to give him credit for the results.
That's
You
my
wouldn't go back and default into, well, he's a gay guy or something like
right.
that.
And
That's
people
just not, it's not within the fair playing realm,
no,
so to
and a
speak.
lot of people on the left would paint all. In fact, they just called Trump a bigot, and they say anyone who supports Donald Trump is a
Now they've
bigot.
gone over the edge. Anybody that
Yeah,
you're talking about half the country here.
right.
See,
But we're not bigots, and that's the truth. All we're trying to do, some of us with Peace Police and other things, is get us to get away from the name calling, get away from the hatred, get away from the vitriol and at each other's throats and attacking ad hominem. Because what's going to happen is someone's going to
personal
get
attacks.
hurt.
Yeah.
Someone's going to get hurt. We're going to end up having martial law. We're going to have riots in the streets. We've had some already. It's going to get worse. We have to back off. We have to focus, like you've said every time, Lowell. Policies, platform, politics,
Position.
positions. Those are what we focus on. And you can agree with policies, platforms, and positions, or you can disagree with them. But let's keep the conversation on that, please. This is not interviewing people to be our pastor. This is not interviewing people to be our spiritual counselor. These are
No.
people that are going to run the country. Guess what? I probably think I'm just trying to think. Like Billy Graham, he's gone now. His son Franklin Graham, whatever. There's people I admire, right? That I think are great
Hmm.
spiritual leaders. Guess what? I don't want them to be president. They don't
No.
have, you know what I mean? It's a separate deal. There are people that are good at certain things. We those of us who voted for Trump thought we need someone who's not from Washington, who can bring some common sense about like fiscal stuff. You run a business. We need a business person running this country to fix
Well,
some.
and that's what triggered all the politicians because a non-politician comes in here and gets more done than the last five presidents combined. And so there's another form of hatred that
Right,
rises up, which is the envy, a jealousy, and
right,
how can this happen? An outsider come in and. So you got a lot of different dynamics at work there.
right. That's right. So our message, what's the Peace Police about? Um, let's talk about the three core values of the Peace Police, which are peace, civility, and discourse. What do we mean by those things? Well, by peace, we mean kind of what the Bible says about peace, which is this: is as far as it's possible with you, be at peace with all men. That's a command. As far as it is possible with you. Guess what? If we get invaded, it's not possible for me to be
Yeah,
at
if somebody breaks your front door down.
That's not possible. But as far as it's possible, be at peace. So if you find someone who is on the opposite end of the political spectrum than you, let's say you're me, and you find someone who is hyper liberal and thinks that Trump people supporters are crazy. What we owe them is, as far as it's possible, to be at peace. And guess what? I have several close friends. I mean, close friends.
I as well.
I would call them right now and say, "Hey, I need help," and they would be there in a second.
Yes.
And they are very far left. And you know what?
Those are called real friendships.
Yeah, this is what we've got to get back to this. So the peace part is, listen, guess what? I want to say this to everyone who's listening. It is possible to be kind and peaceful and loving even
Yes.
to people on the other end of the political spectrum. You can do it. You've been fed a lie. You've been fed a lie that if you're on the left, you must hate the right, you must hate Trump supporters. You have That's a lie. It's not true. There's lots of examples out there of families who've learned to love each other even though they disagree. So that's the first. Peace. Be at peace. Don't fight unless it's absolutely necessary for your own safety and the safety of others. In that, that actual moment, you may have to fight. But as far as it's possible, be at peace. Next is civility. Civility means what they taught you in kindergarten. Don't call names. Don't insult people. Respect them. Listen when they're talking. Shut up and listen until it's your turn to speak, and then speak. Be civil. Be polite. Have manners.
Even the golden rule, treat others as you would have them, treat you.
Now let me say something. I'll just say this. I think Trump needs help in the civility area. He's not very civil sometimes, okay? I admit that. Those of us who support Trump, by the way, if you haven't got this,
we don't give him a blanket pass.
He's not supported in everything he does in every aspect of his life. That's just not true. There's lots of things I would change about him if he was my best friend or my pastor or whatever. But the point is, and he doesn't get this one right, be civil. When you're tempted to call someone a name and make fun of them and ridicule them,
bite your tongue, right?
Bite your tongue. That's not one of his strong points.
No, he's the Queen's slap them back twice as hard type.
Yeah, that's right. That's Brooklyn. And I come from Jersey, so I have that. I'm an Italian from Jersey, so I have that tendency. We all do, right? But listen, be civil. When you start slinging mud, right? Then if you throw it back, they're going to throw it back at you, and everybody gets covered in mud. It's like the old analogy of the tar baby,
disintegrates,
right? Yeah. So just stop with the incivility. Be the one that says, all right, well, you kind of called me a name there, but that's okay. Let's move on. Don't fight back on those kinds of things. And then the final one is discourse. And it's amazing. So these are the 3 core values. If you go to peacepolice.net, you'll see everything that we're about, and you'll see our 3 core values of peace, civility, and discourse. This last one, discourse, means have conversations, have discussions, have debates about real issues. We don't, there are people that would say, listen, just love each other, but don't talk about things. We don't say that. We say, no, let's talk about it.
That won't get anything done, right?
No, in fact, the stuff that's left, the stuff that you never talk about, you just become more galvanized. Because there's another, I know we bring up verses. This isn't really a religious organization, but we come from that background, Loel and I. But there's a verse that says, iron sharpens iron. What that means is, if you had 2 knives and you push them against each other, right? You see chefs do that. Each knife is sharpening the other. They're both benefiting. Right. And when you sharpen, rough edges get knocked off. So that's what's happening with iron sharpening iron. And that's what happens when people who have differing opinions have discourse. Respectful, civil discourse. Only good can come of that, because you will get sharpened. You will. Things will
and
change.
In discourse, be prepared to say why you support something or believe something. Right. It's not just because I want to or someone told me to. Discourse means that you're willing to give your reasons and discuss it.
We're willing to be grown-ups about it, right? We're gonna actually talk about it. It's funny. I've told this story before, but I've been kicked off of. Actually, I was kicked off of a website. Or a Facebook page. I've been kicked off of a relative's Facebook page because I was told I was not allowed to offer any dissenting opinion about their discussions. So they just want an echo chamber, and that's our problem. I think that's really, when you get down to it, it's our problem as a country, is everyone, or not everyone, but a majority of people are listening to their own echo chamber. And and that could be the social media or your TV channel that you're watching, or the fact that you're in Facebook groups. The only ones you friend on Facebook are people who agree with you, and you surround yourself with people from the same persuasion. If you do that, you will not have all the facts.
Isolation, yeah.
Yeah, we've got to get back to discourse, talking to each side. So that's kind of what we're about. It's a half hour we've been into this discussion. This is a little bit different show than we've done in the past. We were just kind of talking about important stuff. And I think when you get to the bottom line of what we've discussed today, It's about being open-minded and caring about solutions and working together, right? We're better together. I actually wrote a song.
Right.
I wrote a song called Better Together. We are better together than we are pitted against each other as one side versus the other. This is what's wrong with America right now. We're divided right down the middle, and we have to remember the people on the other side in God are our brothers and sisters in humanity. And in America, the people on the other side, for the most part, are patriots and fellow lovers of the country and
fellow citizens, yep.
fellow Americans who want the best for America. Let's remember that. That's what we want to leave you with today. Remember, okay, not to demonize the other side. Try to understand, be quiet and listen, and then when it's your turn, present your case. Man, if we had 10% more of that, just 10% more in
just 10% more, staying on the topic instead of personal attacks,
it would change everything, just like Karl Rove said earlier when we showed that thing. So I think that's what we want to leave you with. Lowell, what do you think?
Absolutely.
You good with that?
I'm good with that, man. Just pick up one of our hats because it will bring conversation and positive feedback from people. I'll tell you that right now.
That's right. Go to peacepolice.net where you can buy the hat. We're going to have some more stuff in the next couple of weeks available on there. We'll get our Cafe Press storefront up, so you'll be able to have shirts and things like this, which I really dig. You know, your phone case and stuff like that. And what Loel said is it's going to bring up conversations. This happens every time.
Every time.
So what is the conversation? If somebody sees this Peace Police thing, what's the Peace Police about? It's an organization of people who just want to bring back peace, civility, and discourse, and who want to stem the tide of crazy, insane, brother against brother violence that's happening in the name of political ideas. What a crazy concept. We want to fix that.
Spread the peace.
Spread the peace, stop the hate. Go to peacepolice.net. You can get the hat. You can get multiple hats. You can download our song, which you heard in the beginning. You're going to hear it again in a second, called Spread the Peace. That's on iTunes. And there's also at the bottom of the front page of peacepolice.net, there's a become a donor or a supporter button, a patron. You can click there and help us. Thanks for tuning in. A little bit of a different show today, but I think it was worthwhile. We'll see you guys next week, okay? God bless.
See you guys.
Spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late. Spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late. Spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late. Spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late.